The Unity Coalition for Israel, together with the Democracy Under Attack Project, present The Battle for Truth, a symposium held in Nashville, Tennessee at the 2012 National Religious Broadcasters Convention. After witnessing the presentation of the Champion of Religious Freedom Award to the president of the NRB, Dr. Frank Wright, many distinguished guests spoke their minds on the topic of religious freedom and the ongoing battle for truth. Christians and Jews are standing together in the Unity Coalition for Israel. Join us.
My name is Tom Smith. I live in Franklin, Tennessee. I worked in Washington for 12 years. And the reason I'm here is to tell you about some litigation that's been in the press recently involving what they called a mosque in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. The way I got involved was a young lady by the name of Laurie Moore. She's actually in the back of the room, called me and said, "You need to come down to Murfreesboro. There are 300 or 400 citizens there who want to know something about this institution that's moving in there." And what I learned was, well, it's a mosque, but actually the mosque they had there was for 250 families, and this facility is 52,000 square feet. And we look at their bylaws, and lo and behold, it's not just for Murfreesboro, it's for 5 cities. And then we start looking at the website, and we see there a reading list of the Muslim Brotherhood. And we learn that the Imam is a graduate of Al-Azhar University in Cairo, Egypt. In fact, number 2 or 3 in his class. As a former FBI friend of mine says, the best and the brightest have come to Murfreesboro, Tennessee. And we find out that on the website of one of the board members, he has pictures of the 2 leaders of Hamas. He has fighters with AK-47 squatting on the U.S. flag and on the Israeli flag, and talking about killing Jews and dying for Palestine. So I suppose this first question that runs through your mind is this within the protections of religious freedom that we see in America? And the answer we posited to the Chancellor down there was no. There are actually some very serious limitations on religious freedom in America for all those who practice religious freedom. You cannot violate U.S. law. You cannot advocate child brides. You cannot urge the beating of women. You cannot advocate the killing of homosexuals. You cannot advocate the killing of those who are apostates from your faith. That's a violation of U.S. law. In fact, it's a violation of the criminal code. Furthermore, we submitted decisions to the Supreme Court of the United States which indicate that you cannot advocate the overthrow of the U.S. government. That was a law passed called the Smith Act that has been upheld 2 or 3 times by the Supreme Court of the United States. And finally, of course, we presented them with the decision of the Supreme Court of the United States in June of 2010, which upheld the federal criminal law prohibiting providing material support to terrorism, even in the face of a First Amendment challenge. So this battle in Murfreesboro, despite everything you've seen in the press, is not really about religious freedom. What it's about is a county approval of an Islamic center that we believe is a center for Muslim Brotherhood training, that they gave no notice. They were supposed to put an internet notice out about the meeting. That didn't happen. They didn't notify any of the commissioners in whose jurisdiction this particular facility was to come forth. They put the notice in a newspaper, but the newspaper was for the city, not the county where the site was. So when they held the meeting to approve it, even the commissioners said, "Where are the people? Why isn't anybody here?" So they tried to sneak through in the middle of the night. Well, because of the bad press, the U.S. Justice Department became involved. They actually filed a brief amicus and said, well, listen, there's no real need to have this lawsuit because the county had an obligation to allow them in because of their religious freedoms and because of a federal law called the Religious Land Use and Institutionalized Persons Act that says that the Planning Commission has to give in the way against a religious institution because anything they might do would be an undue burden. The good news is we won that particular case. We're the only case in the country where, because of a decision of the Ninth Circuit, oddly enough, said that no, you have to comply with the notice and hearing procedures locally before that federal law ever comes into effect. So right now we have a hearing on April 25th and 26th that will determine whether the notice was adequate. They obviously tried to sneak in the middle of the night, and the question is, will they have to go back and do the approvals again, in which case they may have to tear down what they've already built. So that's our issue. It isn't one of religious freedom. It's a question of what are the outer edges of the protections of the First Amendment for those people who are protected in Murfreesboro, the citizens of Murfreesboro. That is the concern that we're dealing with. And it's a very real concern. We're very familiar with this. Since all this happened, see, this happened before Egypt, before Tunisia, before Syria, before we saw some of the fellows on the reading list down there addressing the crowd in Egypt or trying to arrange peace talks with our folks in the Taliban in Doha, Qatar. But at any rate, that's the issue in Murfreesboro. I'm happy to talk to you about it and answer any questions later. And thank you so much, Esther, for having me.
Thank you so much.
I want to talk about something that's very exciting that Esther has put together. It's called Sign the Declaration Today. It is the solution to the Israeli problem. So I'm going to give these to you as you go out. I'd like you to look at them very carefully. And then what I'd like you to do, if you don't mind, if you'd like to include them in anything that your organization would like to do, we'd like to have you as partners with Esther. So they're here, and I'll give them to you as you go out.
Since 1991, the Unity Coalition for Israel, UCI, has educated and motivated millions of people around the world to action in support of Israel. UCI is an alliance of Christian and Jewish organizations and individuals working together to ensure the sovereignty, safety, and security of Israel, America's only reliable democratic ally in the Middle East.